Talk about Justin Trudeau quitting. He's been talking about it recently, and he's been talking about it in French, which he tends to do when he wants to get information out there in hopes that, I guess, people, I don't know how he does. He sort of puts it out there like a trial balloon. This is where he called the trucker convoy racist and misogynistic. He did that in French. He's also talking about resigning, or thinks about resigning the office of the prime ministership in Canada. We're going to get to that in a second. But first, we are getting very excited about the prospect that Justin Trudeau, the prime minister, is about to resign. Yes, is Justin Trudeau going to resign? Well, he just did an interview where he was speaking in French and wanted to let Canadians know that he finds the job incredibly boring and that he often thinks about resigning on a regular basis. So is Prime Minister Trudeau about to resign? Are we getting our hopes up?
Canadians are not the only ones suffering. Justin Trudeau has it very tough. Did you hear about this? He's a little bit bored. Did you hear about this? Incredible, this quote. I got to read these quotes here for Dave. He said this in French in an interview with Redacted. He said, "I think about quitting every day." Isn't that funny? We think about firing him every day. Oh, my God.
Let's bring in, from Ottawa, Canada, David KRAYDEN, independent journalist, who's been watching this. And David, I have to ask you, it's very interesting to me. I know over the past couple of years, Trudeau has managed to do a couple of interviews where he does them in French. And I remember we've had to translate some of them, but they end up being some of his most controversial interviews. But he does them in French. I guess he thinks that no one will pay attention, or no one can use a translating app, or no one can translate what he's saying here. So what actually happened here?
Yeah, you're quite right. He does do these interviews in French where he says things that are potentially very embarrassing for him. And he's done this in the past. But what happened last week? He did an interview with Radio-Canada, which is the French CBC. And it was all in French. There was no English. And he made a number of very surprising and arguably very stupid statements. You know, he said that he thinks about quitting, and he said quitting every day as prime minister. He said that he finds the job, and the word he used in French was super plate, which means it translates to super boring. He finds the job of prime minister being super boring. He said the only reason he stays on, and he talked about all the hardships he's had to endure, which a lot of people just rolled their eyes at, saying he's talking about hardships.
Right, he's the victim. Hardships. He's the victim here?
He paints himself as the victim in this interview and says he's got to stick to it because he's got to see these policies through. And of course, the policies he's really talking about, the ones he really cares about the most, they're the LGBTQ, gender ideology, giving billions to Ukraine, and keeping a euthanasia program going. Those seem to be the policies he's really committed to, along with economic catastrophe. But he has in the past, as you pointed out at the beginning, said things in these French interviews that he really pretends he didn't say. For instance, he called the unvaccinated and the participants in the Freedom Convoy racist and misogynistic. That was the first reference to this, was in a French interview. And of course, he lied about saying that repeatedly, including on the witness stand at the Emergencies Act inquiry. He was grilled by the Freedom Convoy lawyer, Ava Chepiuk, and he lied about having said this. And of course, when I covered the story, I just merely replayed the video of him saying that. It's exactly what he did. He called them names. And this is what he often does in French. So the interview is really galvanizing, if it needed to be galvanized anymore, opinion against Trudeau, because here's a guy who's 28 points down in the polls against Pierre Poilievre. His Liberal Party is 20 points behind the Conservative Party. And he's talking about quitting. I think a lot of Liberals are going to be saying, hey, you want to quit, brother? It's time you quit, because you're doing the party no good. And I think most Canadians think he's doing Canada no good. But he's in a vulnerable position. And to admit that he thinks about quitting every day, well, I think that's an open door to say bye-bye.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is why I find this interesting, because he's saying that these guys don't say anything out of turn, right? This is all calculated and it's on purpose. So why is he saying this? Why is he late? Is this sort of a trial balloon here to see if liberals have anyone else they want to put forth and get him out of there? We know obviously he's separated from his wife. I mean, who knows what's going on there? So he's playing the victim here, that it's been, detrimental to his family, and he wants to step aside. Is this a trial balloon? I always think about these things in terms of American politics as well. When you hear these stories being pushed out there, there's something else is going on here. So do you think liberals are lining up another candidate?
There doesn't seem to be a clear alternative to Justin Trudeau, even amongst liberals. Chrystia Freeland is obviously mentioned. She's the deputy prime minister, but she's loathed in circles because of her condescending attitude towards ordinary Canadians. I mean, she's so supercilious. So I don't think there's a clear candidate to replace him. And what's strange is that as we speak today, there's going to be a non-confidence vote in the House of Commons. It doesn't happen every week or every month. This is a significant event brought up by Pierre Poilievre on the basis that the carbon tax, this incredible tax that Canadians pay on their heating bills, on their gasoline at the pump, on all fossil fuel energy, and even including hydroelectricity, that this is forming the basis of a non-confidence motion in the House of Commons today. It was supposed to be last night. Things got pushed to tomorrow. It got too late. But Trudeau is maniacal right now in the House during question period about his insistence that only he understands what's best for Canada. Only Justin Trudeau knows what Canadians need. So he is grasping at power right now. And he's not looking like a man who wants to leave of his own volition by any means. And his attitude in the House right now is hysterical. And he literally knocked the glass of water off of his desk yesterday onto another cabinet minister's working space, and there's water everywhere.
Cancel the April Fool's Day tax hike.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in a question and a contrast on facts, the reality is
he seems to be so pumped up on whatever it is he's using right now. And I don't know what else to say except that he does not look like a man who wants to leave. He really believes that the carbon tax is saving Canada from the perils of of climate change.
Well, how is this going to affect? How is this going to affect average Canadians? This carbon tax. I mean, what will they end up paying here?
Well, in British Columbia, they're already paying over $2 a liter, not gallon, liter for gasoline.
Wow.
So it means in Ontario here, we'll be paying about $1.80. That's what it really comes down to. I mean, that's a heck of a lot of money to pay for gas every time. And of course, it goes on your heating bill. Now, Trudeau is also lying when he says Canadians get back more than they pay, or at least equal amounts than they pay in this so-called carbon rebate. But the parliamentary budget officer revealed this week that that's a sham. That's not the case. Canadians are paying twice as much as they ever get back in this little stipend of a Trudeau rebate. And he's lying about that too. So it's incredible economic hardship on Canadians. But even worse, it's an economic hardship on business, and especially farms. Farms are paying like literally $80,000 a month in taxes.
Wow.
Just to heat their farm area, the barns, mushroom farms, for instance, $80,000 a month. A local mushroom farmer in Ottawa is paying on it. So it is incredibly destructive, this tax. And Trudeau seems to be wanting to fall on his sword over it. Now, whether or not he's going to get the NDP's support in this non-confidence motion or not, I don't know. There seems to be some wavering there. Most of the provinces in Canada now are united against the carbon tax because it is creating economic disorder and tremendous hardship for ordinary people who just want to drive their cars and heat their homes, or in the summer, of course, air condition their homes if they have that luxury.
Yeah, I just don't understand how you can say this job is boring. Seems to me if you're Prime Minister of Canada with all of the problems you currently have, Maybe it's boring because he's created a lot of these problems. And so now he can sit back and he doesn't have much else to do other than watch Canada spiral into the ground right now. Well, one can only hope that he resigns. And we'll see what happens down 20 points. We'll keep our eyes on this, and we'll keep our eyes on this carbon tax. Obviously, the Biden administration doubling down as well on the green agenda. So maybe these puppets in the World Economic Forum and the globalists are trying to keep these guys in charge until they can push and ram through this agenda. David, great to see you.
What?
Yeah, go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, Clayton, it's interesting that BBC broke this story because
right.
Everywhere Trudeau goes in the world, he makes enemies. And the country that hates him the most right now is India. Every time he goes to India, he makes an ass of himself. What did he do when he was last? Well, in Britain, very infamously, the night before the state funeral for Queen Elizabeth II, he delivers this bizarre piano bar rendition of Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, looking very, very drunk, shall we say. This was captured by a videographer on the scene. The video went around the world, and once again, it made Justin Trudeau look like a child who doesn't take serious events very seriously. And I wouldn't doubt for a minute that Trudeau's enemies in the British press, and there are several, and they are a lot, wanted to get him on this interview. And I think that's exactly what they've done. So you make enemies around the world the way Justin Trudeau has, and the chickens come home to roost.
Friends. Who needs friends? What is the saying? Who needs friends when you've got with enemies like this, right? Yeah, that's right. David, great to see you. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you so much, Clayton.
Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, you've watched it all. And that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the KRAYDEN resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.